Bear Down Bears fans, we got head coach talk on today's episode of the Windy City Breeze. The Chicago Bears apparently are interested in talking with Eric Bienemy after this season, and Jim Harbaugh might be interested in the Chicago Bears. All that and more in today's episode of the Windy City Breeze Sports Talk Daily. Let's go. Now, if you are new to the channel, please like the video. Please subscribe to the page. We do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. It's the only channel talking Bears, how Bears fans talk. So make sure that you get in tune with us, man. Let's start it off with the report from Josina Anderson. Big shout out to Josina. Said, so she is told that the Chicago Bears are expected to have interest in Commanders assistant head coach, offensive coordinator Eric Bienemy, among others, with general knowledge that current head coach Matt Eberflus is under evaluation with the team at 4-8 per sources, which is not surprising, right? Eric Bienemy has been one of the best play callers over the last couple of years. You've seen what he's been able to do with Sam Howell out in Washington there. And, you know, the biggest question around Bienemy, I think, going into this was, okay, yes, you were able to do it with Pat Mahomes. Can you do it again? And I think there are two things that really, really work in Bienemy's favor here, right? Number one, the job he's done with Sam Howell. Like, let's start there. Let's just take that in, right? Because Sam Howell, and I don't believe, right, I'm not one of these people that only looks at the numbers and says, oh, he's a good quarterback because of his numbers. But I don't think that Sam Howell was really slated or moving towards being any type of quarterback in the NFL. And Eric Bienemy has him at a 65% passing completion, 3,400 yards on the season, 18 touchdowns, 14 interceptions with a rating of 85 on the season. For the guy that he is, I think that is an amazing season. Because you just didn't expect much. You didn't think that Sam Howell was going to be able to go out there and have this, to even keep the Commanders in games offensively, competitively. And it's been very up and down, right? He looks like a second-year quarterback. There's no surprise with some of the mistakes that he's made. But you're seeing Sam Howell take steps in the right direction. That, to me, is a huge feather in the cap of Eric Bienemy. And so I have no surprise that Chicago Bears would be interested in talking to him, seeing as how his offensive game plan has really, I don't want to say gotten the Commanders off the ground. Like, it's not like they're good, right? But like, has had the Commanders in games offensively with an offense that you look at and go, yeah, that's okay. I'm fine with that. All right. Like, it's kind of gross. The other feather that I think is in Eric Bienemy's cap, and one of the reasons I think that Chicago Bears would be very interested is, listen, we have a lot of people here in Chicago who are very focused on what's happening in Kansas City. Why? Because Matt Nagy is the OC in KC. He's 110% the OC. There's no doubt about it in anyone's mind. You can see what he's doing on the field, and guess what? It doesn't work. You see now a guy who left there, who gave that offense the firepower, along with Pat Mahomes and the guys on the field, right? But gave that offense the firepower that it needed and the consistency that it needed. You saw him be able to draw up plays with less talent than Tyreek Hill out there and be able to get the job done. Now we see the flip side of that with Matt Nagy, where, let's be real, this Chiefs offense looks broken multiple times, not scoring in the second half, multiple times not being able to get over 20 points in a game. This Chiefs offense looks broken, and I don't think that it's just the fact that, oh, Travis Kelce has been in and out. Listen, I've watched Pat Mahomes get to a Super Bowl with no tackles. I've seen Eric Bienemy be able to adjust offensively. So I think that those are two things that, especially, right, you look at Ryan Poles, and of course, right, Justin McCaskey's looking at Matt Nagy from afar. They are paying attention to what's happening in Kansas City right now, because it tells you that, guess what? We gave him the best quarterback in the world, and he still can't call plays. And we gave Eric Bienemy, who what possibly could have been the worst starting point in the league here offensively. And he's still able to call plays and call an offense that looks competent at times. Okay, yeah, we need to talk to this guy. And it doesn't mean that they're going to hire him. It doesn't mean that he's going to be the end-all, be-all candidate. But I do think that having Bieniemy on your radar is a smart idea. I would love to see Eric Bienemy finally be able to get a head coaching opportunity. The only concern that I have with Bieniemy is kind of what it was at the start of the season, right? Remember, all of the players coming over and basically saying, I don't know what like, he's very in your face, like aggressive. And I think that was just the switch over, because even Chico was like, yeah, they're probably not used to that. You know what I mean? Like, they're probably not used to having an OC that's going to go out there and be very in your face and different things like that. But I think he's an old school type of coach. He sets the standard. We know what he comes from player wise, right? Like, I think that would be my only concern, is can he connect with his players in the modern day? But I would love to have Bieniemy on my radar. Outside of that concern of the players, I think that he could absolutely help this offense get going. An offense that has Justin Fields, has DJ Moore, has guys in it who are able to go out there and make plays on a play in, play out basis. And I think he'd even be able to utilize some of the guys who we think have been underutilized in this offense. But let me know how you guys feel in the comments below. I'll be down to talk with you as well. Do you think that Eric Bienemy could be a good coaching candidate for the Chicago Bears as their next head coach? Now, this second topic here, talking about Jim Harbaugh, this comes from the Bears Now by Chat Sports. Harrison Graham over there, who's somebody, the only reason I'm doing this is because, to Harrison's credit, Harrison is not somebody that is breaking news, right? He rarely gets in the breaking news game. I think it's only been a couple of times over the time that I paid attention to him. Usually, you know, he's been kind of close on some of the news that he's been able to break. And so and I think he cares about his integrity as a journalist and as a podcaster and a YouTuber in this space. So I give the caveat to all of that to say that Chat Now is reporting that Jim Harbaugh would be interested in the Chicago Bears as his next destination. It says, and I love this. This is another reason too. When you watch the video, check it out, break it down. He gives the preferences, right? It's not like Jim Harbaugh is all out on Michigan. The thing is now that Jim Harbaugh's contract talks basically have stopped with Michigan. There was supposed to be this huge contract that was going to be in play if they won the national championship, right? Like, the contract talks were happening. Everybody was excited. And then the cheating scandal happened. And all of a sudden, now the contract talks are dead, right? So basically what they're saying is that the preference for Jim is to stay at Michigan. There is a deadline for them to basically get contract talks back started. That deadline right now is Christmas Day for a new contract to get back in place. He would love to talk to the Bears without a new deal. So if there's no deal in place, he would love to have a conversation with the Bears on coming back, and that he still does feel the love in Chicago, which how could you not, right? Like, listen, you were one of the few quarterbacks that has seen any moderate success here. We've seen you be successful in other places. We've talked about about Jim Harbaugh possibly being a coaching candidate here pretty much every time a coach ends up getting fired here. And I think that Jim Harbaugh would be interesting. And I love the fact that he would love to come here. The part that's interesting to me, I should say, though, is that Michigan is still his first preference. And if that is the case, Jim Harbaugh probably will not leave Michigan. Oh, but there's not going to be a contract talking. He's a god in Michigan. I need people to understand this when you're talking about Jim Harbaugh, when you're talking about college sports. When you're a god in that city, they overlook a lot. Oh, it was a cheating scandal and we did this and he should be out. And he's a god in Michigan. They gave him his punishment. He's going to serve his punishment, and then nobody's going to care anymore because he's going to go out there the next year and he's going to win games again at Michigan. And people are going to say, well, he's a cheater. Guess what? So's Bill Belichick. Yeah, I mean, he's still going to go down as the greatest NFL head coach of all time, unless Andy Reid, by some stretch of the imagination, finds a way to catch him. But I like the fact that Jim Harbaugh, if this is true, is also in on having a conversation with the Bears, because I think that was the one question that a lot of people did have, right? Like, okay, the Bears want Harbaugh. Maybe they want to go get Jim. Maybe they want to bring Jim in. Maybe they want to bring him into the fold. All these different things happen. But on top of all of that, does Jim want to leave Michigan? which clearly he doesn't. His preference is to stay at Michigan. I completely get it. He's a god there. He's a king there. He never has to leave if he doesn't want to. And I'm going to be real with you. If Michigan is dumb enough to not have head coaching talks with him about a contract moving forward, I would love to swoop in and see the Bears take over that conversation. But at the end of the day, this is a team that, to me, would benefit from having Jim Harbaugh in place. And now knowing that Jim Harbaugh would be interested in talking about the Bears, you have to mentally prepare yourself to be talking about spending $10 million, $11, $12 million on a head coach for 5-6 years, right? And I think the biggest question with a lot of that is, what does he come in and do? He's talking about building this team very similar to Michigan. He's talking about building this team very similar to what he's done in the past. That means that Ryan Poles basically has to take more of a backseat role to Jim Harbaugh on building this team. Now, does that mean that they can't work together, that they can't put things together, that Ryan Poles won't be able to make the executive decision on different things? I don't think that that's the case, but you know this is going to be what Jim wants, Jim is going to want, and you have to get that to Jim. That's been the one concern that I think I've seen a ton, right? How much of a I don't know. It's not really, it is kind of front office because you're making, these are the guys I want, let's go get them. You're making front office decisions, but the final buck goes through Ryan Poles. How much of that team does Jim Harbaugh go out there or how much of that front office role does Jim Harbaugh take on? And the part that I would push back on is the thought process that Ryan Poles would have an issue with that. Because when you look at the players that are here, we got rid of Roquan Smith because he didn't fit Matt Eberflus's defense, right? That's the reason we got rid of Roquan. That's a Flus call. Flus, you want Roquan? I'd rather have somebody else. We brought in Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards because they fit Flus's defense, right? We go get Montez Sweat because he fits Flus's defense. We draft Javon Dexter and Zach Pickens because they fit Flus's defense. So it's not like Ryan Poles is not willing to make moves. We're on the fence with Jalen Johnson as a DB because he doesn't have the same length and speed as Tyreek Stevenson because Tyreek fits Flus's defense. Ryan Poles is willing to get you pieces that fit your team. I don't know why we think that would mean that Jim Harbaugh coming in and saying, these are the pieces that I want, means Ryan Poles goes, whoa. Those aren't the pieces that we want. Ryan Poles wants whoever the head coach is to be successful. You can see that from what he's done with Matt Eberflus. And I think that if Jim Harbaugh was here, he would go out and get him the pieces that he needs to be successful as well. And so I don't think that would be as big of an issue, but I do know that has been a major concern for some people. At the end of the day, I would like to know how you guys feel, man. Do you like the fact that Jim Harbaugh is interested in the Chicago Bears? Do you think that the Bears should bring him in? A lot of people very much in on Harbaugh. We'll see what that ends up being. Bringing into the fold. We'll also talk about this on today's episode of The Daily Show, so tune in with us on that as well. As always, man, it's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bear down. Peace.